At the end of this last summer, I had the opportunity to vacation and revisit one of my favorite countries, Japan. I love going back because of the beautiful nature, the history, the culture, amazing food, awesome public transportation system, and of course because they have tons of retro video game stores. I always keep an eye open for these shops because you never know what you might find. Oftentimes I find games that are way too expensive here in the United States, like Mega Man X3, for way cheaper. This last trip I brought a bunch of games home, and I'm slowly getting through to play some. So I thought I should review some Japanese exclusive games in my new segment, It Came From Japan! Let's check out a game that never made it stateside for the Super Famicom called, and I'm only going to attempt the Japanese name once, Majyuuo, or in English, The King of Demons. And let's see if it's worth a 15-hour plane ride just to pick it up. Or I guess you can buy it online. What's astonishing when walking into a retro game shop in Japan is the sheer volume of games and the amount that are actually in the original packaging. It's a sight to behold, and even if you don't plan on buying anything, it's cool to look at all the variant box art from games you do know. As I walked into more and more shops on this trip, a single game kept catching my eye. Yes, it was The King of Demons. Look at this bad boy! The box is sick! Not your typical Super Nintendo art. I always saw it complete and sealed in the box for around $47 US. I wondered why it was fairly inexpensive, so I looked into it, and it turns out the game was originally from 1995 and it had a bit of a following, but it currently holds a hefty price tag of over $700 if complete. In 2018, the game was re-released on cartridge by Soft Garage, making it way cheaper and easily accessible for those who wanted to play it. I snatched up a copy, and as I do with any import games I buy on impulse, I began to wonder, 1, is it gonna be good? And more importantly, 2, can I even play this thing without knowing a lick of Japanese? Popping in that beautiful black cartridge and booting it up, my fears were put at ease for a moment, because the start screen was in English. But as the game begins, you get dialogue between our main character and what I assume is a blue duck on steroids, because how am I supposed to know what that is? The writing's entirely in Japanese! Thankfully, if you can't read Japanese, the story of The King of Demons is all you'll miss out on, because the opening and the ending are the two portions with text dialogue. And with the power of imagination, you can make up your own story. Our hero kinda looks like a mix of John Rambo and John McClane, so henceforth I'll be referring to him as Rambo McClane. From what I can gather, Blue Steroid Duck murdered Rambo McClane's wife, and he kidnapped his daughter, bringing her down into the depths of hell for tribute to the Demon King. You must now go to save her with the help of your dead wife, who I guess transformed into a fairy? I don't know, and I don't care. I'm just hoping for some top-notch gameplay. The King of Demons is an action side-scroller. Enemies are littered across the path, and you move from the standard left to right dispatching these foes. There's a button to jump and a second to shoot. You can also do a dive roll to avoid enemy attacks, and perform a downward strike, which that I didn't find to be too useful. Controlling Rambo McClane is not great. It feels extremely stiff and slow, like earlier Castlevania games do, but even more so. When you shoot, you fire left and right only. You can't aim up or at diagonals, and I found this to be super inconvenient at times. This leads to tons of jumping and shooting, which gets tiresome. Holding down the shoot button will charge it up, and when you release it, it fires a powerful blast. Pretty cool, except for the fact that it barely makes it 1/4 of the way across the screen. It's way too limited, so I barely used it, and instead just rapidly pressed the standard shot. The big twist to the gameplay is that after you defeat a boss, a gemstone will drop down and it will transform you into a demon. There are 3 different forms: a kind of mantis-looking thing that slings boomerangs, a robot knight that has a laser gun, and a dragon that shoots fireballs. Your movement speed doesn't increase when you change into these forms, you still only fire side to side, and your charge shot range doesn't increase. It was a nice idea, but I can't really see the benefit to the transformations at all, so I didn't use them. The game isn't particularly difficult, but what can be infuriating is that while you do have unlimited continues, using one reverts your health back to its original amount. So using a continue in a later stage will make it difficult to progress with the limited health. The bosses are a walk in the park, barely changing up their attack patterns, and you can just stand in one place and just blast away until they die. It's not challenging, it's not fun to control, the level design is really flat, and it all makes you question why bother. Graphically, it does have some nice backgrounds, and its strongest suit is in the freakish enemy design and variety, oftentimes being downright disturbing. But Rambo McClane's sprite is just bad. It's small and undetailed, and your transformations should have turned you into something equally as disturbing as the enemy designs. But they don't even look like they fit the rest of the game's style. It's really disappointing. A strength of the King of Demons is in its soundtrack. Definitely fitting of a man on a rampage in hell. Some seriously spooky vibes. But like everything in the game, for any positive, there are 2 or 3 negatives. When you get a new transformation, the sound effect for the new attack changes, and it's so ear-piercing and louder than anything else in the mix, and it becomes super annoying. The transformations were weak to begin with, but adding in the horrible sound effects give you less incentive to use them. If I had to think of a reason why this game wasn't released in the US, my guess would be because of how graphic it is. Now, I know games today are way worse with the depictions of death, gore, and violence, but at the time of this release, censorship in regards to video games in the US was high. Think about Mortal Kombat and the backlash it received. The King of Demons is way worse. You can blow off people's heads. There's a part where a woman is getting whipped to death by demonic bulls. There are bodies hanging from the ceiling. The creatures and the enemies themselves are grotesque. You are literally diving into the depths of hell. And to top it off, the bad ending is that you shoot your own daughter dead. It's ghoulish stuff, but it's also the most unique part about the King of Demons. So I think if they wanted to bring the game to the United States, it would have caused too much trouble, or they would have had to drastically censor the game. But now at a time where it's so easy to import games, should the King of Demons be on your list?
The King of Demons is the kind of game with a lot of style, but its gameplay isn't quite good enough to back it up. It's stiff, it's slow, the level designs are uninteresting, and the power-ups are super boring. The game can cost upwards of $700 for an original copy, and honestly no game is ever worth that cost. But even the re-release with its $47 asking price leaves much to be desired. So should you play the King of Demons? I'd say pass on this one and leave it in Japan. Thanks for watching, guys. Are there any Japanese imports that you'd like to see me review? Let me know down in the comments below. I'll see you next time, and remember, it's all fun and games.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked that video, why not check out the video down below where I tell you why water levels suck. And if you like It's All Fun and Games, make sure to subscribe. Thanks again.